the club now.
I'm Robert Kirkman, and you've got to watch out for zombies.
I'm here to say that it can be done and that it should be done. I love comics. I love everything about them. I love everyone who reads them, and I love everyone who does them. And it's, it's a special part of my life. And I just want to make sure that my great-great-grandchildren can still read the same medium that I grew up loving. And I don't care if they're reading it on a television screen in their wrist, as long as they're still reading it. Comics will survive.
My goal in life, because I grew up a huge comics fan, was to, get to a point where I could make a living, writing comics, and then to have a long-running comic book series that, I'd be able to tell stories in for as long as I wanted. Just have something that had hit a level of success where it wasn't going to get canceled. Yeah. And I achieved that. And so I wake up every morning like dying to write these stories, and I really do enjoy it quite a bit. So, it hasn't been too difficult. Like I don't find myself getting writer's block, I always am able to come up with new terrible things to do to these fake people fairly easily. Right. But it has been a lot of work, and when you say 10 years, it does kind of, I'm like, oh geez.
A lot of the stuff was stuff I had building up. It was ideas I had as a kid. It was ideas I had, when I wasn't a kid, before I did comics, whatever. Invincible was like, sit down and create a comic. And that, because we were working on Super Patriot, and Valentino was like, if you want to do a book for the superhero line, come up with something. And it was, had to be iconic, couldn't be too dark, because he didn't want, Dark Knight Returns stuff that everybody had been doing. And so, Corey lived with me at the time, because his lease was up on his apartment. He lived in Phoenix, Arizona. I lived in Lexington, Kentucky. His lease was up on his apartment, and he didn't have any, he had a job. And I was like, well, you're going to be looking for a new apartment. And at the same time, Larson said, do the Super Patriot miniseries. And so I said, why don't you come and stay with me? I had an extra room in my house, but it was my studio. And so I had my desk and, my drawing table where I drew crappy drawings. And for me, Invincible, I just want it to be this sprawling superhero epic that lasts for issues and issues. And I would like to do it until I die, and then possibly, just hand it off to someone else to do issues after I die that I don't have to look at, that are just going to ruin it. So I think that I'd like to see Invincible survive me, in a perfect world. Now, probably going to peter out around issue 100. I mean, let's be honest here. But I'd like to see it go forever. And I wanted it to be, like a normal kid getting superpowers, and how he would kind of deal with that. And then at the same time, he was raised in a weird, kind of environment, because he always knew that his father was a superhero. And he was raised kind of expecting to get his powers at some point. So that, like in the first issue, he's taking trash out at his shitty, burger job, and he throws the trash bag into the trash, but instead of it going into the trash, it soars into orbit. And instead of going, oh my God, what's going on? I got superpowers. What am I gonna do? Oh, like most every comic, he just says, oh man, it's about time, and he runs home to tell his parents. And so, in a lot of ways, Invincible is just about like trying to do something different with, normal kind of stuff that happens in a superhero book.
I was always a huge fan of zombie films, the Romero films chief among them, but they always kind of end with the heroes all dying, or some of them riding off into the sunset. And I always wanted to know where they went next and how they continued to survive. And so, that really led to the creation of The Walking Dead, which is a story about a group of people that you can get invested in and follow them for years and years as they continue to find food and survive in this post-apocalyptic world.
The book itself is a very dark book. And I'm caught up. And is that an expression of fears that you have about life? Is it just your imagination running wild, or is it?
I think a lot of it is expressions of fears that I have in life. I mean, I have 2 children, and I've got a wife that I greatly enjoy the company of. And if something bad were to happen to any of them, I would probably be a wreck. As I sit here right now, my kids are in school. I have no idea what they're doing. That's a little terrifying to me, and that manifests itself in making up stories about other people's children getting eaten by zombies, I guess. So.
And does it help? Does it help ease the?
No, not at all. It makes it worse, probably.
Question that I was asked the most is, why did I do it? Why did I leave Marvel Comics to do creator-owned work exclusively? And aside from 1,000 other reasons, the main reason, the reason I want to talk about now, is I did it to save the entire comic book industry. And I know that sounds a little arrogant, a little goofball, and that's fine. Right now the comic book industry is backwards. No one watches a movie and decides that they want to do movies and aspires to only ever do Pulp Fiction 2. And no one reads a novel and decides they want to do novels and only ever aspires to do Moby Dick 2. And in the industry, the way it works right now is a lot of times guys come into creator-owned comics, like me, like Bendis, like Jonathan Hickman, like Matt Fraction. We come into the comic book industry doing creator-owned work, and we eventually graduate up to Marvel, and then that's the end of the story. And sometimes you get to the top, and sometimes you get to the middle, and sometimes you languish at the bottom, but you make a good living, and it's excellent work. It's fun to do, and at the end of the day, I had a great time at Marvel. Joe Quesada, super brilliant man. But at the end of the day, when you're hot, you're hot, and when you're not, you're not. And when you're not hot, they don't want you, and your career is over. And that's bad for creators. The thing you need to do is eventually go off into create your own stuff. It's been proven that, you know, when you do create your own work, your life in the industry is a little longer.